right, good morning. We began the book of Deuteronomy this morning. Today? Oh my gosh! All right. Hey, Dolores, you've just been nominated. Lead us in the birthday song.
There's a hole in my bucket, but this is
Your birthday song. It isn't very long. Hey, congratulations, there, Tom. So now that we've wished Tom a happy birthday, we're going to begin the book of Deuteronomy this morning. Even though it is sequential in the order of the books of the Old Testament, it's you can think of Deuteronomy as very much a parallel book to what is revealed in Leviticus and what is revealed in Numbers. So don't think of it as these are the things that happen after the things that happened in the sand. Or Numbers, the book of the sand, that these are the things that are parallel. This all happened during the same window of time. The primary distinction that I'd like you to bear in mind as we immerse ourselves in the book of Deuteronomy is that even though it's very similar content, the book of Numbers and to a great degree Leviticus, these are the revelation of God, self-revelation of God unto His people, and the book of Deuteronomy is, again, covers the same principal content, but in from a different perspective. The perspective the book of Deuteronomy focuses on is what it's like to live as this kind of people that God is creating of His chosen people. And I know we use the word chosen people, but of His created people. He didn't find a people and chose them and said, you guys are going to be my people. He created a people, revealed Himself to that people, and said, I will be your God and you will be my people. And this passage we're looking at will help us see a good bit about what God is talking about when He says, you will be my people. So with that, and there's a lot of other kind of preliminary housekeeping stuff that we could go through on book of Deuteronomy. Like it's the most oft quoted book by Jesus. Jesus quotes from the book of Deuteronomy than any other book in the Bible. And then on a personal note, it just so happens to be my favorite book of the Old Testament. And so I've spent a lot of time in Deuteronomy. I really appreciate Deuteronomy. But let's get focused this morning. So as a kind of a preamble or to get us started, when we were younger. And you think about your own life. To some degree, I'll speak in first person here, even though I don't necessarily like doing that. But speaking for when we were younger, we liked the competition, the passions, the emotions. I mean, life wasn't being lived unless it was lived with spice and drama and all of the things that we think make life exciting when we're young. And I'm not suggesting that every life was lived that way. But most of us, to some degree or another, live with an appetite for the spice and the drama of life, and hopefully, I think it is with many of us. As we get older, we don't have quite such an appetite for all the drama and the spice and the combatancy and the competition and the power, the struggle for power. It's not that we are less passionate people. It's just that we've grown with a measure of discernment and discipline, and we don't wear every blathering anxiety on our sleeves in life and vomit out every passionate voice that might wander into our heads. Yet, globally, there are cultures that kind of institutionalize this. If you're a Latin American, especially, no offense, but if you're a Latin American woman, that's the only way to live. You live with all of the spice and dynamic and passion and everything on your sleeve all the time. Mediterranean cultures, very similar way. It's always just this zest and zeal for the drama and the dynamic. And so it's not that it is foreign to us. It's just that at one time or another in our lives, not every mountain's a mountain to die on. And now I'll speak for myself. The older I get, the more I'm looking for peace and contentment in life. The less I want to entangle myself in the drama and the battles in life. And yet we live in the modern Western Hemisphere in a world of activism and passion and truly everything does come spilling out on our sleeves and to the point where if you were paying attention this week, there's a group of people that think that if you'll just dress up in an inflatable, colorful chicken costume and march down the street, you're going to have effective influence over the governing policy of a nation. And so, where in the world does that idea come? Well, it comes from a life lived without discipline, and then a culture of social media that says every voice is a dominant voice in the platform of social engagement, and that I choose to put on a colorful inflatable chicken costume in order to give my place in the world, to place my stake in the sand, and it's really it's a really difficult world, to the best of my discernment. It's a really difficult world to look at and look for balance and peace, and people who are striving for peace and contentment in their lives. And if you're familiar with Malcolm Muggeridge, he's famous for a quote that says, "We have educated ourselves into imbecility." And Malcolm was a very great economist with words, but it was very poignant in that observation that the longer mankind lives, the more intellectual mankind becomes, and at the same time, the more stupid we have become, because we are continuously looking for all of our answers from within. And as Frank Peretti said, if you're confused, don't look within. You're the one who's confused, which is a really great quote there. I would take one step further from Malcolm Muggeridge and suggest that it's potentially that we have educated ourselves into madness, where we are struggling to know right from wrong, good from bad, up from down, and we're told that if you don't think like me, well, you're just not aware. But if you'd wear one of our little purple ribbons, then you'll demonstrate that you're aware, or one of our yellow ribbons, or one of our pink ribbons, or one of our awareness ribbons. And if you don't think like me, well, it's just because you're not educated. You don't understand. You don't know. But if you'll get educated, then you'll understand that this really aberrant position I take that's totally unsustainable makes sense. And we can all get along because you'll think like I think. We live in a world that is very, very difficult to navigate, but not so much about what we think, but how we think. How we think has become so horribly polluted, and we're doing it to ourselves. It doesn't have to be that way. I had a conversation early in this year with a person that I was really fairly new in my relationship with him, and this was a relationship that I wanted to have a good relationship with, but it was also a relationship that I needed to have a good relationship with. And I won't say that we were in an argument, but I would say we had a fairly lively exchange of differentiated positions and opinions. And in the end, it was related to an offense against my family, and he did ultimately apologize, and I forgave. But I totally surprised myself, totally caught myself off guard. I'd never thought of this phrase before. I'd never used this phrase before. But I concluded the exchange with, all is forgiven. I think on it no more. The relationship means more than the offense. And I never used that phrase before, but immediately when I said that, and it was disarming and calming and everything was fine, but immediately when I said that, I had a strong sense. Don't let that go, because that has more value to you later. Hang on to that. Hang on to the idea that, can you live your life in a manner tempered enough to say there may be mountains to die on, but it's not all of them. It doesn't come in the form of inflatable chicken costumes. But evaluate whether or not the relationship means more than the offense. And if you're going to be a man of peace, then let that be one of the significant filters. Yeah, we're all chapping each other's hides. Yeah, when you get two of us in a room, there's always going to be some differentiation. But is the relationship more value than the difference? And this is something that has it's been a constant focus for me for much of the year this year. And then we get to Deuteronomy 4. So I want to read Deuteronomy, this particular passage. I'm not sure exactly how far we're going to get through this morning. I'm going to do my best to get through the bulk of it, but I'm going to get at least the bulk of it on the table. Deuteronomy 4, verse 1. Hear now, O Israel, the decrees and the laws I'm about to teach you, to follow them, so that you may live and go in and take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, is giving you. Do not add to the command to what I command you, and do not subtract from it, but keep the commands that the Lord your God I give you. You saw with your own eyes what the Lord did at Baal Peor. The Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed the Baal Peor, but all of you who held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. So, see, I have taught you the decrees and the laws that the Lord my God has commanded me, so that you may follow them in the land you are entering and take possession of it. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about these decrees and say, surely the great nation is wise and understanding people. What other nation is so great as to have their gods near them in a way that the Lord their God is near us whenever we pray to him? And what other nation is so great to have such righteous decrees and laws in the body of law that I am setting before you today? Only be careful and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them slip from your heart as long as you live, and teach them to your children and to their children after them. And remember the day you stood before your Lord God at Horeb, when he said to me, assemble the people before me to hear my words, so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land, and teach them to their children. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, while it blazed with fire to thick into the very heavens, with black clouds and deep darkness. And the Lord spoke to you out of the fire, and you heard the sound of the words and saw no form, and there was only a voice. And he declared to you his covenant, the 10 Commandments, which he commanded you to follow. And then he wrote them in 2 stone tablets. And the Lord directed me at the time to teach you the decrees and the laws you were to follow, and the land that you are crossing in the Jordan to possess. I'm only going to go that far in terms of reading. We may get that far. We may get a little further than that, but I'm only going to go that far because I'm not confident we're going to get that much further. One of the things that I do want to point out is, before we get too far, is that when God offered the 10 Commandments, we have maybe a cinematic picture of Moses going up the mountain and meeting with God, and God revealing the 10 Commandments. And Moses wrote them on tablet stones. He went down the mountain. He saw the train wreck going on down there. He dropped the tablets. There was the calf that hopped out of the fire, according to Aaron. But he went back up the mountain, and a second set of tablets was made, and God himself inscribed on those tablets. And those are the tablets that actually went in the Ark of the Covenant. We remember all that. Maybe what we didn't get in this kind of the cinematic revelation of this, that we don't even necessarily get in the original account, but get in this detailed account here in Deuteronomy, is y'all heard. Y'all were hanging out at the base of the mountain, and you saw no form, but it wasn't just God speaking to Moses, but you heard the 10 Commandments. When God revealed his foundation of the law of his people, you heard it. You heard it with your own ears. You stood at the base of the mountain, far enough away, as God said. But you looked up into the mountain and you saw the smoke. And you heard the thunder and the clouds that came before the smoke. And you know that the Lord came down because you heard his voice utter the 10 Commandments. And I want you to bear in mind and remember, the 10 Commandments is your provision, not your prison. The 10 Commandments are given to you to preserve you for the good life, the quality life, the sacred life, the holy life, the redeemed life that God is offering you. And you heard it with your own ears. So he says, remember when you were at Horeb, when you stood down there at the base of the mountain and you heard my voice. Hold on to that. Teach that to yourself. Teach that to your children. Teach that to your children's children. So let's go back up to the beginning. Hear now, O Israel, comma. I'm just going to stop there. We are going to focus on that next week. I think, is that right? I hope that's right. Yeah, Okay, the following week, we're not going to do that one. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 8 the following week. Normally, I don't jump ahead, but I just wanted to make sure there's a couple of things in here that I'm really excited about in Deuteronomy that I don't want to miss. But we will go to this next week. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail here right now. I'm just going to kind of highlight it and then tease into next week. Hear now, O Israel. That's principally the first words of the Shema, the great prayer of Israel that a devout Israeli will recite every day. First thing when he gets up in the morning, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. That's the beginning of the Shema, and it goes on. We're going to focus on the Shema next week, and I'm really excited about doing that. But I want to highlight that here because in a way that a holy God reveals himself to his creation, us. He almost puts us in a funnel to get us down to this sharp focus of our attention. To say, dispense with everything else that's a distraction to you for a minute. Focus with me here. Listen to me here on this. This is for your good. This is for your peace. This is for your contentment. The life that you don't even know you can have. The life that you can live in joy and peace and contentment. I want to talk to you about here for a minute. So, hear now, O Israel. Meaning, hear, listen, perceive, understand, and then implied, follow. You can't look in the mirror and walk away and forget what your reflection looks like, to borrow from the New Testament. You want to remember what God is revealing here. Hear, O Israel, the laws and decrees that I'm about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live, underline the word live, and may go, underline the word go, and take possession of, underline the words, take possession of, the land the Lord, the God of your fathers, is giving you. Now, it's not just the land. It is definitely the land. Where they're headed to is the promised land. What is now the nation of Israel? I just double-checked for a minute this morning because of everything that's going on globally. How big is this nation of Israel today? Which is less, notably less than the entirety of the promised land that God gave them. But it's what Israel is today. Israel, in terms of square miles, Israel is about 1/4 of the size of the state of Kentucky. It's tiny. It's this tiny little place. And yet, it's endured. The land is not necessarily just the point, although the land is sacred unto God and is sacred unto Israel, but it's the life you live in this land. That you will live and you will take possession of and you will be at peace if you will follow me. And again, my provisions for you are my provisions, not your provision. My commands for you are for your good. They are to give you liberty in life. Verse 2, do not add to what I command you and do not subtract from it. Keep the commands your Lord your God has given you. Does that ring a bell to you? Are you familiar with language like that? Don't add to this, don't take away from it. Where have you heard that? Revelation. Where in Revelation? Huh? Where in Revelation?
At the very end.
Very end, yeah. That's at the very end. If you begin the book of Revelation, it said this is the revelation of Jesus Christ to the redeemed. The book of Revelation is not a revelation of the things to come, or as many people would want to say, revelations. It's not plural, thinking that it's about all of the events. It's not. The revelation is the revelation of the person of Jesus Christ and his return. It is the revelation of Jesus to the redeemed. If you're not the redeemed, no wonder you're so puzzled and curious and make crazy movies all about the things that happen in Revelation, because you don't understand it. It's not written for you to understand it as an unredeemed person. It's written for the redeemed to understand. It is a revelation of Jesus to his people. And then we get to the very end and it says, don't add to this and don't take it away. And then there's the warning. Because if you do, your name will be taken from the book of life. Meaning your eternal destiny of heaven will be taken from you. If you reinvent the revelation that I give you of myself to be something other than me, then you're not worshiping me. And if you're not worshiping me, you have asked for a life separate from me, and that's what you'll be given. You will be given. I'm not going to send you to hell. You're getting what you ask for. An estate of life, a state of existence, which will be eternal. Don't make any mistake about that. Separate from me. It's what you asked for. So when Jesus, or when God says this through Moses to Israel, do not add to what I command you, and do not subtract from it, but keep the commands the Lord your God has given you. Very, very specifically, what he's saying is high priority on spiritual fidelity. Idolatry is not just worshiping other gods. It is spiritual infidelity. I would ask you to, if that hadn't sunk in your life for a minute, let that sink in for a minute. It is that I have made a pledge to the Lord my God to be his people and to receive him as my God. Yeah, I'm still going to get fancy with the spices. And, I'll pick and choose the things that I want to do and follow and not the things that I want to follow. And, if circumstances yield that I need to be kind of stretch the so-called covenants of my life, well, then I'll stretch them to accommodate myself. God's being really, he's not allowing us that room. Remember, the commands I give you they are your preservation, not your prison. I am not locking you down. I am giving you liberty by giving you the way that you and I can live at peace together. The contentment of your life is based on your relationship with me. I created you. I deposited a piece of me in you. I'm in the process of redeeming you. That the only real true contentment in life, the only real true peace in life, is living at peace with me. And I'm revealing myself to you to bring you, to give you, to offer you that life of peace. And oh, by the way, you get a piece of land as a part of the piece of real estate, as a part of the deal. You got a place to live. Now, you and I may not think a whole lot about that. We were born into a sovereign land that's been a sovereign land for a long, long time. It is a very stable sovereign land. We look out into the future, and unless we get too horribly cynical, we're reasonably certain that this continues to be a stable land, even though there's a lot of turmoil. But we enjoy the protection and the provision and the life of a free nation at liberty within the constitution of our governance, unlike so many other places in the world. But even the other places in the world, they're not where Israel is right now. Israel is a nomadic nation of 4 million plus people. They've got no land, no home, nothing to claim their own. They're the largest wandering caravan that I know of in the history of the world. And they're exiled into the desert for a season, and they're told, I promised your fathers that you would have a land, and I'm leading you into that, albeit you stiffed me on it the first time I took you up there. I'm bringing you back after 40 years, and you're going to enter the land. You not only have a peaceful way of life with me, but you're going to have a land. Think about what it means to them. We've been wandering in the desert for 40 years. We don't even know how long we're going to be wandering in the desert for sure, because even though we were told on the front end of our monumental disobedience at the eastern shore of the Jordan, that we would be exiled to the desert for 40 years, 1 year for each day that the spies were in the promised land, which is actually measured from the day they left the year they left Egypt, not the year they got to the Jordan. We don't know for sure when this is going to happen. We're just by faith trusting that God says we are headed back up there. We are going to cross in. But think about it from their perspective. Now, those 40 years, that's on the end of 400 years of slavery. That's on the end of, I'm not sure how many years of freedom living in Goshen in Egypt after they came down out of the land of Canaan with their father Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the family of Israel that comes down. And it wasn't Abraham, of course, came down. It was Jacob that led the family down, and the 12 sons. We've really never been a people that knows a land, a home, a place we can call our own, a bed we can lay down on that will still be there the following day, farms we can plant, herds we can field, vineyards we can plant and reap the wine from. We've been living in a very nomadic life for a long time, but we get land. We get a place to live and a peace to live in and a God who will govern us. You saw with your own eyes what the Lord, starting at verse 3, you saw with your own eyes what the Lord did at Baal Peor. The Lord your God destroyed them from among you, everyone who followed the Baal Peor. All of you who had held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. This is not just a historical interlude. This is a very specific contrast that God has placed before Israel to say, spiritual fidelity is what I'm offering you and what I'm asking of you to offer me. And this is the time. I guess we really don't have it in here, do we? This is the time for the big word of the day. The big word of the day is relationship. Relationship is not a New Testament word. Relationship is not a contemporary Christian theology word. Relationship is not the small group buzzword that it has become in the past 25 years. Relationship is the one thing God always wanted with his creation. It's what he had in the garden with Adam and Eve before the fall. It's an unveiled relationship between himself and his creation. It is not just what he wants for himself, it's what he wants for you. But the relationship is a two-way street. This is why, at least in my mind, the offense is worth more than the relationship, or I value the relationship more than the offense. I think I just said it wrong the first time. I value the relationship more than the offense. What's so important to me this past year is because that's how God looks at us. The offense that I have committed and continue to commit against God in every sin of my life, God says, but the relationship between you and me is worth more. And I offer the life of my son to rebuild that relationship. That's how God treats me. Now we can look at each other and find plenty of reasons to be at odds with each other. And we can find plenty of reasons to be even combatants with each other. And so you really do need to ask that question. Is the offense more valuable than the relationship? Or is the relationship more valuable than the offense? And yeah, there's hills to die on. I'm not saying that you forgive and sweep under the rug everything that ever happens and that nothing really means anything because it's all just it's nebulous fodder. No, there are mountains to die on, but it sure doesn't come in the form of an inflatable, colorful chicken suit walking down the street trying to influence national policy. Be careful where we draw the line with each other because God has drawn the line very, very high. And he calls us up to that and tells us that you mean more to me than your offense means to me. And I have given you a path that will bridge that gap between you and me, where your sin against me can be covered because the relationship means more than the offense. So when we get to the point that says, here's how we live at peace together, don't add to what I command to you and don't take away from it, but keep the law that I give you. Offer me the spiritual fidelity that I offer you. But in case you don't get it, remember back at Peor when those really, really sexy women kind of got to you, and they were Moabite women, and they said, come join us. And you went and joined them. Said, have some of this food we've offered to our gods. And you ate some. Now, it just so happened to be fertility gods. Come sleep with us. And you slept with them. And then, let us come live in your community. And they started to come into the camp of Israel. That's a measure of infidelity that God says, yeah, the relationship with my people means more than the offense. But the offense is not without its consequence. Remember the Baal of Peor? Remember? You saw with your own eyes what the Lord did at the Baal of Peor. The Lord your God destroyed from you among everyone who followed the Baal of Peor. But all of you who held fast to the Lord are still alive today. I think 25,000 died at a plague and an outright purging of those who were spiritually unfaithful to God, who lusted after, chased after, and embraced foreign gods. And how did they do it? Feeding the appetites of their flesh. Why are we eating this manna when I don't know, that piece of lamb, I don't give it to Marduk, maybe not sacrificing Marduk. It's tastier than this manna, so I'm going to have some of their lamb. They got leeks and vegetables there. This is good food, and the women are really attractive. And I think I might even just take a few of them home with me, and they're happy to come. There is consequence for our spiritual infidelity. The relationship couldn't mean more than the offense if there were not consequence for the offense. In this case, these were unrecoverable people by God's definition, and they died to the tune of 25,000. God gave us a very vivid contrast. This isn't just a narrative storytelling. God is very specifically reminding you of what the consequence of spiritual infidelity looks like. You die. Now, in case we're not picking up the parallel here, you're going to live eternally. That's not the question. The question is, what's the estate of your eternity? Spiritual infidelity leads to eternal death, hell, eternal separation from God. Spiritual fidelity leads to life, eternal life. What did God say to you? Follow my decrees and laws. You will live. You will take possession of a land. You will have an estate of life at peace with me. You hear what he's saying? This is heaven. You get to live according to my will. We can live at peace. We have a place to live at peace, and it is eternal. Do you see the parallel? Do you see what he's describing? It's not just you get a piece of geography today because you do. That's just a shadow of the great things to come. It's an eternal life at peace with me. But the contrast is there is an eternal death and separation from me. See, I have taught you the decrees and the laws the Lord my God has commanded you, so that you may follow them in the land that you are in to take possession of. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about these decrees and say, surely this is a great nation, a wise and understanding people. Mr. Workman, would you watch time for me, just so I don't step over it? I'd appreciate it if you would. Thank you. Now, after he tells you, follow me in this, live at peace with me in the land that I'm going to give you. And here's the kind of the cool thing. It's cool to me. I hope you value it. Thanks, Tom. I hope you value this. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all these decrees and say, surely this is a great nation, is a wise and understanding people. I made a note to myself, so I want to make sure I look back at that. Yeah, this morning for me, this morning for me is titled Spiritual Fidelity, but there's a subtitle: Fidelity, Wisdom, Witness. If you live at peace with God, you get to enter a land. The estate of life that you will have will be a place to live, peace with your God. But you get something else: wisdom, understanding. Remember, the great pursuit of the Hebrew is not power, it is not glory, it is not immortality, It is light. The great pursuit of Rome, the great pursuit of Rome was glory. The great pursuit of Greece was knowledge. The great pursuit of Egypt was immortality. But the great pursuit of the Hebrew is light. It is understanding, perception. Not just knowledge, but understanding. This is why a nation can educate itself not only into imbecility, but into madness apart from God. When God says don't add and don't take away, he's telling you your inclination is going to be to get started with what I tell you, but then take it on your own. This is the difference between religion and relationship. Religion starts nobly, but then you start to write your own laws and your own creeds and build your own body of sainthood and start to structure your own disciplines and your own screens and litmus tests for who gets to come to the communion and who doesn't, and who gets to be a member of a particular congregation and who doesn't, and who the redeemed are and who the redeemed are not, and all of a sudden then cults start to form and very aberrant beliefs are done, and countless atrocities are done beneath the cross that have nothing to do with Christ. Countless wars are fought under the banner of the cross that have nothing to do with the ministry of Christ. And that comes when we start to add and subtract from the revealed will of God in our lives. And he says, don't do that, because none of that displays wisdom. But if you will follow me, you will have awareness, you will have understanding, you will have wisdom. And it's not just for you. That's part of you living at peace, is not living in a constant state of confusion, never knowing right from wrong, good from bad, up from down, sacred from profane. I've revealed that to you. And if you live by it, you will know peace. Peace with each other, peace with me. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations. Not only will you live at peace with wisdom, the greatest armament against madness in the human existence, wisdom, not knowledge, but wisdom. But others are going to look at you and say, wow, how did Brian get so clever? Why is Brian always at peace? Why is Brian such a good... Why, when Brian has a problem, does he seem to have a really good answer for it? Why do I find that when I am struggling with something and I'm looking for somebody to help me out, I'm looking around and I'm not finding anybody but Brian? Brian is the guy to go to. Brian seems to have a peace and an awareness and understanding, a wisdom that I don't have. And there's a balance in Brian that... He's going through the same stuff I'm going through, but he's at peace. Your wisdom will be your witness to the nations. And this is how God expresses your witness will be your wisdom will be your witness to the nations when he says, what other nation is so great to have their God so near them when the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him? We yak on and on and on to Marduk all the time here in Moab. And we're really good Moabites, and we live very diligently according to the yik and the yak that our priests have told us that makes Moab or Marduk happy, and we like to think that, but we're still a train wreck. But those Hebrew people where Brian lives, they seem to be at peace. And if we know anything about the history of those people, everywhere they go, all of their enemies are thwarted in front of them. And the only time that we ever hear that calamity happens inside their nation is when they transcend against their God. But if they will honor their God, they get to live at peace. We honor Marduk every single day. And the locust still came and ate my crops. My pond dried up. Disease came in and took all my sheep. This happens all the time. And I'm a really good Mardukian. But it still avail me nothing. But what other nation is so great to have their gods near them in the way that the Lord, our God, is near us whenever we go to him and pray. And what other nation is so great to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of law that I am setting before you today? Now, if you're a student of history, you'll know that out there somewhere there's the Hammurabi Code. And the Hammurabi Code is a reasonably good body of law. But the lion's share, I know we've walked right through this before because the Hammurabi Stele reveals all of this, and we have a very good copy of what the Hammurabi Code is, and Hammurabi is actually even referenced in the architrave of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, above the entry of the Supreme Court, above the colonnade, there's the architrave up there. And the Hammurabi Code is recognized there. The Hammurabi Code is recognized within the courts of our Supreme Court. Largely it has to do with lateral relationships. And a lot of that has to do with land ownership and how to reconcile between possession. And it is peace. And then all at the end of the Hammurabi Code, Hammurabi says, I put this in place because I do not want the powerful and the wealthy and the elite to take advantage of the poor, the disenfranchised, and the less powerful. I want to provide a way that both the elite and the poor, the powerful and the not so powerful, and everybody in between can live at peace with each other. That's the fundamental purpose of the Hammurabi Code. It says it at the very end of the Hammurabi Code. I challenge you to read it. It's not that long. I think it's like 115 laws, and then there's a preamble and there's a postscript. And in the postscript, at the end of it, that's where Hammurabi says, "This is why I do this." It's the very last thing he says. I'm sorry? 5 minutes? Oh, gosh. Okay, thank you. Okay, I've gotten distracted there. Yeah, whatever nation is so great to have such a righteous decrees and laws in the body of the laws I'm setting before you, that do you hear the word righteous? Righteousness? This is let me, sure. Yeah. I'm not sure any of us are seeking stupidity. None of us get up in the morning and say, make me more stupid. I want a path of life that leads me to less and less intelligence. We all want intelligence. We all want to be reasonably capable. We all want the tools to navigate this world. We don't want to be stupid. We want to be smart. Not all of us want to be wise. Because and this is the reason, is because for most of us, the reason that we want to be bigger, better, faster, stronger, smarter is because that translates to what we're really after, and that's power. Power over my life, power over other people's lives, and I really want power over other people's lives because the best way to ensure that my life is lived at peace is to make sure that nobody messes with my life, and the best way to keep people from messing with my life is to be able to control their lives. So if I control their lives and make their lives the way I want it to be, then I can surround myself with people that allow me to live the life I want to live. I want power. I want influence. I want to control other people, and as long as I'm smarter and more capable than they are, then I can control them. The root of all evil is not the love of money. It is the root of all kinds of evil. But if you ask me what the root of all evil is, it is one man's desire to control another man's life. I think you can trace almost all evil back to the idea that I want control over my life, and the best way to control my life is to control everybody else's life around me. That's the man apart from God. And we will always find some measure of that rearing its ugly dragonous head up in our lives. Even as redeemed people, we will always be combated against that. But if you will forfeit knowledge for wisdom, that is where that's where the divinity takes control of our lives. So I made just kind of a note in mind that all men seek wisdom and by it believe in their own power. But some will see righteousness and see the power of God. That God gives us wisdom in his own words here. And what other nation is so great to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of law that I'm setting before you now? That the body of law that I'm giving you is righteous, and it makes of you righteous people, righteousness reigns in your lives. And the rest of the world will see righteousness, not intelligence, not smarts, wisdom, intellect, but righteousness. That's what I'm revealing through your wisdom. So when we get to fidelity, wisdom, righteousness, which is how I kind of block or characterize this particular passage, live at peace with me. I will invest in you. Not just a place to live, not just a peace between us with a law that we can both live under, but with wisdom. And that wisdom will be your righteousness, and your righteousness will be relevant and revealing to other nations. Which is why when I'm living in such a train wreck, and I look at Brian and I see wisdom, I'm not really calling it righteousness just yet. But if I spend time with Brian and I say, I don't want to live the way I live anymore. I want to live the way you live. I don't want to follow the gods that I follow anymore. I want to follow the gods you. Before long, I get to see that it's not just wisdom, it's righteousness. God is offering his righteousness, and he's offered it through Brian. He's offered it through his redeemed people. I created you as a peculiar people, peculiar unto this world, because it is your righteousness that I'm revealing myself. It is my righteousness that I'm revealing myself to, and then through you to the rest of the world. It's all wrapped up in this one little package right here. If we just read it as a historical narrative, we totally miss it. But it's all right here, right in front of us. If we are willing to listen and to hear, and I know we've got to close here, only be careful and to watch yourself closely that you do not forget these things. Your eyes to see and let them slip from your heart as long as you live. Teach them their children and their children after them. And remember the day you stood before me at Horeb. And that's where we get back to the very beginning. When you stood before me at Horeb at the base of the mountain, and you heard my voice utter you the 10 preservations for your life, the foundation on which this life can be lived. You heard it with your own ears at the foot of Mount Horeb when I spoke in a loud voice. You saw no form, but you heard my divine voice reveal this to you. And we're going to close with this because we do have to go. There is no better way to anchor something in your own life than prepare to teach it to someone else. If you focus on and prepare to offer it to somebody else, maybe it's not in a specific forum. Maybe it's just the conduct of your life, the discipline of your life that demonstrates the nature of the redeemed life to another person. But there's no better way to anchor it in your own life than you prepare to reveal it to somebody else. But how does he say? Teach it to your children and to their children after them. The first goal that you have, if you're willing to follow me in fidelity, to live in this wisdom, become a witness, the first person you witness to is your own children and their children after it, the generations that you personally touch. It's not just fidelity with me, spiritual fidelity. It's fidelity in your latter relationships. But you will never get your fidelity in your latter relationships until first you have fidelity with your God. And you can play that game, and you can do religion, and you can create and add and subtract to the will of God and find yourself educated into absolute and utter madness. Or you can follow his revealed will. And your name will be forever inscribed in the Lamb's Book of Life. And you will offer that, the greatest gift you can offer your children and your grandchildren, the revealed will of God, that they may walk in this peace and this wisdom as well. We have to close. Thoughts before we close this morning? We're going to pick up one piece of this next week, and we're going to take a deeper dive into that. You see, I'm kind of glad we started here because this is all. It's not like foreign to Leviticus. It's there in Leviticus. It's not foreign to Numbers. It's there in Numbers. But now Deuteronomy forces us to start looking at it, a much deeper dive into this. What does this really look like if I'm going to live it? And then next week we're going to take just that first part, the Shema, Hear, O Israel. And we're going to focus on not necessarily a prayer to be prayed, but a posture of prayer in the Shema. So we're going to focus on that next week. I'm sorry, I asked. Other thoughts before we close this morning?
I was gonna say something about the Ten Commandments.
Yes, sir.
They're still on tablets right now, like the tablets like Microsoft or the computers, the tablets.
Okay, Tom's always good for a piece of wry humor. Always good for a piece of wry humor. I suspect at one time or another we get to see such a thing as the tablets, but I don't think they're going to be on an iPad. Yeah. All right. Mr. Workman, can you close us in prayer this morning?
Father God, we're grateful to be in your house today, and we thank you for this good day that you've given to us. We're grateful and thankful for all the blessings that you pour out on us. And this lesson has a lot in it for us to digest and chew on over the next few days. But Father, we thank you for your perfect word. We thank you for your will, and just help us to live within the guidelines that you have given us, not to enslave us, but to free us, to give us a way to walk uprightly before you, before man, and to be a light shining in this dark world. Ask, Father, that you just go with us and be with us, and we lift up our concerns and our praises today again to you, Father, and just thank you for all that. Go with us, be with us, and until we can come back together in your house today for worship. This is in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.